Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sanjeev Punia. As we are discussing third unit of computer architecture, and I told you that there are two parts in this unit. As we completed first part, that is computer arithmetic. Now today we will start the input output organization. In this, today we will discuss about direct memory access. As we saw that in CPU, that is central processing unit, there are different important parts and it is called the heart of a computer because each and everything is going to be controlled from here. Analogy with the human being, as each and everything is going to be controlled from the mind of the human. In computers, everything is going to be controlled by the central processing unit. So this is the reason this is also called the heart of a computer system. The main operation of the central processing unit is to perform different operations and to manage them. As we discussed over earlier also that in CPU there are different registers like program counter which keep controls that how the program is going to run and how many times for an instruction it has to be run. Then instructions register, an address register, accumulator registers, and a lot more. Those are not shown over here. And in the first part of this unit, we discuss the complete operation of arithmetic and logic unit, as these are general bus, that is data bus, address bus, and control bus that controls the different type of operations. So this is the basic diagram of central processing unit. Now, if computer cannot interact with input output device, or if we cannot send the information to the computer or can receive the information from the computer, then there is no use, as it is separate identity if we are not able to connect anyway, that is as an either as an internal input, either external input, or in external output or input there can be two things, that either we can connect to feed some information or we can connect to receive some information from the computer. But our main purpose is to make more and more efficient to get the maximum output of central processing unit. Now, as features of computer system that allow certain hardware subsystem to access main memory, that is RAM, independent of the central processing unit. As we discussed that there are basically two type of main memory, that is primary memory. One is ROM, that is random access memory, and second is RAM. Sorry, one is ROM, that is read only memory, and second is one RAM, that is random access memory, and these contains the data that is directly connected with the CPU, that is central processing unit, as ROM contains the permanent data that is used to start the computer, whereas RAM is an interface that is used to provide an operation. So whenever an operation has to be performed or a program has to be run, then there is the use of random access memory that is read frequently by the central processing unit. If there are different type of memory, then that is also going to access through the RAM, or the content from that memory is bring to RAM first and then CPU access that information. So without DMA, when the CPU is using programmed input output, it is typically fully occupied for the entire duration of the read or write operation, and thus unavailable to perform other work. As we know that speed of input and output devices are very less, or input output devices are very slow compared to central processing unit, and if CPU has to take some information from the input, then as the difference of the speed, CPU has to wait a lot of time for some input from the input device. But the operation is going to performed only and only by the CPU. If the CPU is waiting for an output from the input device, then the work is interrupted, means any work cannot be performed till then. So what we can do, we can make some buffer where the input content is going to be stored temporarily, and when CPU is free or wants some information from the input device, then it will access the input information from that buffer memory. So in this case, the efficiency of the CPU is more, and it will not completely wait for the input content or input information. So with DMA, the CPU first initiate the transfer, then it does other operation while the transfer is in process, and it finally receives the interrupt from the DMA controller when the operation is done. We will see this when we will study DMA operations in the next lecture. The concept of DMA is very useful when the CPU needs to perform a lot of work so that it can transfer the control from one work to another work or from one task to another task. If CPU is working without DMA, direct memory access, then in that case it's not possible at all, because I told you that whatever the operation is going to perform, that has to be performed using DMA, that is direct memory access in most of the systems. And we are getting so latest systems nowadays that every computer is equipped with DMA. This is a diagram that represents a computer system without DMA. From here, you can see that when CPU wants some information, and it sees from the main memory that the information is not available in main memory, then CPU has to wait to receive information from the drive or from out input devices. But if we are not getting the data in the drive also, it means the input has to be come from a input devices. So in this case, CPU has to wait a long, and the efficiency of work has decreased. Then the controller throws an interrupt so that operating system can read the block from the controller's buffer, a byte or a word at a time. Because we know that all the input-output devices are programmed serially, means information is going to send or receive serially, whereas CPU performs all the operations parallelly, and we cannot compare the speed of input-output devices and central processing unit at all. So there is so much big difference in the speed of these two. So after reading each and every single part of block from the controller device register, the operating system will store them into the memory. So we will see that how the things is happening without the DMA. So this is the concept when we are not using the DMA in our system. But if we are using the DMA, then this is the basic diagram. This is the basic diagram that we insert a DMA controller between drive, so that whenever the content has to be taken from the drive, then in that case CPU give control to the DMA that okay, you have to bring the data from the drive or from the input devices, and that work is performed through DMA controller. During this time, CPU worked on another process. In this way, the efficiency of the computer is going to be enhanced. We will discuss about the DMA controller operations, each and every operation step by step when we will discuss the use of direct memory access, that is DMA, within the system. This is the thing we study, that if we are not using the DMA, then what's the way or the way in which the operation is going to be performed within CPU. So in the next lecture, we will discuss that how we can perform an operation using direct memory access in central processing unit. Thank you. Thanks a lot.